Hello everyone, sorry about that. We had some technical difficulties. Welcome to the MudRoom, our weekly free Uncommon Sense parenting class. How is everyone today? I hope that you've been enjoying the milder spring weather. My children have been outside playing all day, every day this week. So I'm half expecting them to bust in here like the Kool-Aid Man at some point. Fair warning, it might happen. But it's so nice that they can go out and play without freezing to death. When the sun started to come out, I could actually feel my seasonal depression lifting. So I'm feeling like a whole new woman. March has been super busy. Am I the only one that has months where it just seems like to attract overscheduling like that? For me, it's always March and June. March and June, no matter how hard I try, every year become absolute scheduling chaos, which is why we've been marching it back to past episodes over the last month so that we've had a bit of breathing room here when it comes to content creation, and also because we have tons of amazing information sitting in our archives that newer followers probably haven't seen. So it's good to revisit and get our newbies up to speed. Alrighty, before we dive into our topic today, allow me to introduce myself. My name is Allana Robinson, and I'm a parenting coach for parents of toddlers, preschoolers, and kindergartners. I help you understand why your kids are misbehaving and how to fix it without yelling, shaming, or timeouts. I am your host here on the MudRoom. I'm also the host of the Parenting Posse Facebook group, and I am the creator of the Parentability program, where I help you raise well-behaved kids of your own. So if you're watching, say hi. If you're catching a replay, drop a replay in the comments. And don't forget to like and subscribe so that you never miss another class. Feel free to ask questions as we go along. This topic in particular can get a little scientific, so don't feel shy. I want to make sure you understand this. Today we're going to be talking about the difference between a tantrum and a meltdown. If you follow me on Instagram, my handle is @parentingposse, just in case you don't and you want to check it out. You'll have noticed that since Saturday, I've been participating in a collaboration with a variety of parenting professionals called the Meltdown movement. This collab was created by my friend and colleague, Laura Pettix, who is known as the OT Butterfly, because she's been noticing some inaccurate information about tantrums and meltdowns circulating on some parenting accounts. And she knows, and I know, and all the rest of the professionals we're collaborating with know that there is a big difference between the two. So we're collaborating to set the record straight. Everybody is sharing some content and information on tantrums versus meltdowns this week, and mine went up this morning. So it seems like a good time to actually discuss this in a bit more depth than I could in a 30-second Instagram reel, which is really hard. I talk as fast as I can, and I'm a fast talker to begin with, but whew, you really gotta book it to fit some of that information in there in 30 seconds. Also, saying parasympathetic that fast took me like 14 tries. So let's get down to brass tacks. What is the difference between a meltdown and a tantrum? First, let's define a tantrum. So a tantrum happens in our neocortex, that top level of our brain that is conscious. It has logic and reason. Our language lives in our neocortex, as well as our executive functioning skills. It thinks and it has knowledge. Basically, all of that good stuff that makes us civil human beings, right? A tantrum is conscious and purposeful. Children have a tantrum to meet an end. So they have a tantrum because they don't like their dinner, or they want candy, or they don't like the music you're playing, or they want the toy that another child has. Whatever, the reasons really have nothing to do with discriminating a tantrum or a meltdown. A child can have a tantrum for any reason, but they have a specific goal. Okay? Generally, if you give your child whatever it is that they're demanding, they instantly stop. They go, thank you, and then, they just peace and run away. They're happy again because they got what it is that they want. Tantrums are a Hail Mary attempt to meet an end. Usually we'll see them during an extinction burst. If you don't know what an extinction burst is, the Coles Notes is that it's how our brain attempts to maintain the status quo. If you want to learn more about extinction bursts, we have a whole article on our blog. Our brains don't like change, basically. Change takes energy. And our brain's prime directive is to conserve energy so that if we're ever in danger, we have the resources to protect ourselves. So our brain will fight really, really hard to maintain that status quo, to keep things the same as much as possible. Consistency and predictability make humans feel safe. So when something changes or our expectations aren't met, we will try really hard to achieve what we were expecting. It doesn't necessarily mean we like what we were expecting. I've had kids throw tantrums over situations that were objectively changing in their favor. Like when one of my clients turned their preschooler forward-facing in their car seat because they outgrew the limits rear-facing, and their child freaked out for 15 minutes and fought tooth and nail to avoid being buckled in. Most kids are thrilled to be turned forward-facing, and this kid was too once he experienced it, but his brain went, nope, this is new and different and I don't trust it. Let's see how big of a stink I need to make to get things back to normal. If my client had turned the seat back rear-facing, he likely would have immediately stopped and gotten in the car. But here's the real way that you tell it's a tantrum. Once the child has calmed down and you ask them why they got so upset, they'll tell you. They'll be able to say, I wanted to stay backwards in my seat, or I wanted the candy, or I wanted to listen to Baby Shark, or I wanted the truck that Hakeem had, or even I thought the dinosaur was going to come out of the rock and eat me, right? Or I wanted Barbie to sing a song to me. It doesn't matter how credible the reason is. It doesn't matter how ridiculous, made up, or fantastical the reason is. If they can give you any reason whatsoever, they had a reason prepared, that was a tantrum. It was conscious and purposeful. There was an end in mind, even if, from our adult perspective, that end makes no sense to us. Okay? If they have an answer when they're calm, it was a tantrum. On the flip side, we have meltdowns. Meltdowns happen in our limbic system. Yes, that is the same limbic system that causes so many issues during the limbic leap. Our limbic system has no reason. Our limbic system controls our emotions, it controls our memories, and it scans our environment for danger. The limbic system just has intuition. It senses and feels. It doesn't think. This is the exact reason a 4-year-old melts down so much, because our amygdala, which is part of the limbic system, and it monitors our environment for danger, is growing super fast, so it's really overly sensitive. But a meltdown can happen at any age. Our amygdala senses danger, and it sends up a warning, we are under attack. And if we can't mitigate whatever that perceived attack is, if we can't calm our parasympathetic nervous system, then we go even deeper into our brain, and we end up in our brain stem, also known as our reptilian brain, and then we go into fight, flight, freeze, fawn, or fib. At that point, we are fighting for our life. Our brain has determined that we are in life-threatening danger. Now, that doesn't mean that we actually are in life-threatening danger. That's just the perception our brain is under. Often with young kids, it's sensory input. There's too much or too little. It can also often have to do with what I call the big three: food, elimination, and sleep. Those 3 basic needs, either too much or not enough of them. We cannot control what our brain perceives as danger, at least not in the moment. We can desensitize our nervous system to certain things, but it takes a lot of time and intention. In the moment, there's no reasoning with the child. And I'm sure you've experienced this, where your child is melting down and they ask for something and then you give it to them, but they keep freaking out. And often they escalate because meltdowns aren't reasonable, because the limbic system has no reason. Talking to your child will almost always escalate a meltdown because they don't have access to their neocortex where their language is stored. So it's just more auditory input for their nervous system to filter. If once your child is calm, at a neutral moment, you ask them why they were so upset, they're not going to be able to answer you. They'll avoid the question, they'll say, I don't know, or they're going to get upset again. They can't answer you because they had no control over it. Their autonomic nervous system took over. Autonomic, meaning automatic, It does what it does, and we have no ability to change it. So if they avoid answering, they hide, they say, I don't know, or they start to tear up, that was a meltdown. So why is it important to be able to tell the difference even if they look the same to the naked eye? Because if you discipline a meltdown as a tantrum, you're going to make it so much worse. If you try to reason with them, if you try to give them what they're demanding, if you try to talk to them, you're going to escalate them, and the meltdown is going to get so much worse. And if every time your child melts down, you keep doing things that escalate them, well, now you're the danger I need to protect myself from. You're not a safe person. You're dangerous, and I need to avoid you when I'm overwhelmed, which means we can't help them. They won't trust us, and they might not even know why they don't trust us. It's just this vague feeling of this person is not going to help me. Children behave well when they feel safe. If we aren't a safe haven for them, they're going to go seeking out other people who will be. We want our children to run towards us when they're upset, not away from us. And similarly, if you treat a tantrum like a meltdown, your child is quickly going to learn that they can pitch a fit over anything, and immediately all the demands get removed. You basically teach them to manipulate you. Neither of which are good lessons, are they? So we need to make sure that we can discriminate between these two completely separate behavioral events, even though they look the same on the surface. Or else we're going to create secondary behavior issues, and the original issue is just going to get that much more worse. So how do we address them differently? Well, for a tantrum, we've got to hold that boundary that you set, okay? You wait for the extinction bursts to pass, and then you reason with them when they're calm. With a meltdown, you try to remove the stressor if you can, make them feel safe, and comfort them when they begin to calm down. And when they are totally calm, we build the skills to cope with whatever the stressor was so that it doesn't happen again. And this is what we help you learn to do in Parentability. We help you recognize when your child is tantruming or melting down and create a plan and strategies that are customized to your child and your family to reduce and eventually eliminate those big behavioral events. We're going to be opening Parentability for registration soon, so make sure you put your name on the wait list for that. The link will be in the description and in the comments when we're done. So I hope that was helpful and it gives you an idea of how to change your response the next time your child is having a tantrum or a meltdown so that you can deal with it effectively and efficiently. And Laura, thank you for bringing us all together to educate as many parents as we can on this topic. It is really, really important. As I said, it's really near and dear to my heart. This is the situation, and a lot of people think like, oh, you're a parenting coach, you must just go around in your day-to-day life correcting parents. And I don't, because that doesn't make you any friends and makes you an asshole. But this is the situation I find the hardest not to interject myself in when I see a child tantruming or melting down and their parent is treating it like a tantrum, right? So I'm really, really glad that we got to talk about this because it's a very important distinction to make. Now, before I release you, I'm just going to make a small announcement. It's not really going to affect y'all, but I like to be transparent and it's important to me to keep you in the loop. This is actually the last regularly scheduled live MudRoom class that we're going to be running. When we started the MudRoom 4 years ago, Facebook Live was a brand new thing and it had a lot of priority in the algorithm and the parenting posse was very small and it made sense to do the MudRoom live every week. However, in the last 4 years, we've noticed things gradually slowing down. A slow but steady decrease, if you will, in the number of live viewers we get. And as Parentability has grown, it's become harder and harder for us to schedule everything around the MudRoom live stream, especially this past year while my kids have been home full time. So the MudRoom isn't going anywhere. Okay, we're still going to publish it every Wednesday on Facebook, on YouTube, and on the podcast. It's still going to be here. And I'm still going to be in the comments answering you live. I'm just not going to be live on camera. Pre-recording will give us a lot more flexibility in our production schedule. I'm hoping it'll give me the ability to start bringing some guests on. I find it really, really difficult to schedule live guests, and it's going to make it easier to offer our content on more platforms. We're still going to do lives occasionally. I actually have one that's set up for a couple weeks from now in April. It's just not going to be every week. So that said, thank you for being here with me today. If you have any questions, make sure that you pop it in the comments and I will happily answer them. Hannah, hey, how are you? Okay, so Hannah says, so with meltdowns, how do you deal with it when your child has to be around a person they find stressful and instantly triggered? Well, that's something that we would have to figure out, right? There's not just one strategy. It depends on why they find that person stressful, why they find that person difficult to be around, how willing the person is to be an active participant in mitigating that stress. A whole bunch of factors, but you're in parentability, so let's have a chat about that in there, okay? All right, I will see you next week for another Uncommon Sense Parenting class. Bye.